Hola muchachos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos al canal del Muchachos. Espero que se encuentren muy bien. Ya el día de ayer terminamos Phoenix Wright. Hoy vengo a informarles una cuestión muy importante. Antes de hablar de eso, muchachos, suscríbanse al canal, compartan los videos, una manita arriba para el muchacho, eso me ayudaría mucho y sobre todo suscríbanse que vamos por la meta de 100 suscriptores. Entonces, activen también la campanita y vamos a lo que van a ver, lo que están viendo, mejor dicho, porque muchas personas me han comentado y me dijeron ayer, oye, ¿tú sabes de casualidad qué pasaría con ble 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 ble? No mentiras. Me han comentado y me han dicho, oye, si has escuchado que Xbox supuestamente ya va retirarse del mundo de las consolas, va a dejar de producir hardware y va a empezar a hacer solo software y juegos para todos menos para menos para Xbox. Entonces, estaba esperando porque el día de hoy Xbox hace unas pocas horas mandó un directo, entonces vamos a verlo juntos para analizar, muchachos. Ya lo tengo ahí subtitulado, así que no me preocupen. Y se me estresen.
Hello and welcome to the official Xbox podcast. I'm your host, Tina Amini, and we have a very special episode today, as you can probably tell by the fact that I'm joined by Phil, Sarah, and Matt. Welcome. And we're going to talk about some updates at Xbox. We want to talk about game exclusivity. We want to talk about Activision Blizzard now that they're part of our portfolio, how that might be an impact on Game Pass. And we want to talk about hardware too and how all of this fits into the strategy at Xbox. So where should we start, Phil?
Well, when we originally had planned for the show, starting back in December, I think we probably would have started with Activision Blizzard, maybe talked a little bit about the exclusivity with some of the news coming up, and then hardware. But we've had some unforeseen news that has come out. So let's just go and tackle the exclusivity question, because I know it's on the minds of a lot of people. We hear from the community, and that's an important input for us.
Sí, es que
So we made the
supuestamente ya no
decision
van a
that we're going to
producir
take
cosas y
4
yo dije, no,
games
esperemos
to the other consoles.
a
Just
que
4
hablen
games.
los directivos.
Not a change to our kind of fundamental exclusive strategy. We're making these decisions for some specific reasons. We make every decision really with the long-term health of Xbox in mind. And long-term health of
Bueno, según
Xbox
eso que
means a
acaban de
growing
decir,
platform, our games
no van
performing,
a
building the best
dejar de
platform for
producir los
creators,
juegos de Game
reaching
Pass
as many players as we can. We're
que
always
ya no
looking to
aparezcan el
learn as a
día
leadership
1.
team and to grow. And we think this is an interesting point in time for
Que
us
he
to
visto muchas
use
páginas que
what some of the other
observan
platforms have
que
right now to help grow our franchises. So we're going to do that.
So these 4 titles, what are they? Can you
directamente
say?
ya no van a
I'm not going to
aparecer el día
name
1
those
ciertos
games. The
títulos,
teams that
entonces
are building those games have announced plans that are not too far away. As we know, game teams put a lot of energy into their announcements with the partners. So I don't want to take anything away from those teams. So I won't be talking
vamos a
about the
escuchar y al
titles
final les digo
specifically,
qué
but I
pienso.
think when they come out, it'll make sense.
Can we say if either of
Sí,
those
señor.
titles are Starfield or Indiana Jones?
They are not Starfield or Indiana Jones.
Well, what was the criteria in how the team was thinking about selecting those 4 titles?
Let me start a little bit outside of that, and then I'll get to the 4 specific games that we're talking about right now. Because the fundamental decision driver for any decision that we make, anything we're going to talk about today, is the long-term health of Xbox. That we're running a growing platform that is reaching more players, that our games are having as much success as possible. And I do have a fundamental belief that over the next 5 or 10 years, exclusive games that are exclusive to one piece of hardware, are going to be a smaller and smaller part of the game industry. And that's not some great insight, because if you look at the last 10 years and what the biggest games are today, it's a natural place. Whether it's one console and PC, multiple consoles, mobile console and PC, you see big games landing on multiple platforms. And we want to be a great platform for creators that are
Pero
trying
si
to
tienen la idea
realize that
entonces de
potential. But
expandirse,
now back to the specifics of the question on these four specific titles. We looked at games that
un
are.
momentito, que es que hay una parte que no comprendí.
I do have a
Necesito ver bien exactamente qué es lo que está
long-term health
diciendo
of
para
Xbox
hablarles
for
de eso.
any decision that right now, because the
how the team was thinking about selecting those 4 titles.
Let me start a little bit outside of that, and then I'll get to the 4 specific games that we're talking about right now. Because the fundamental decision driver for any decision that we make, anything we're going to talk about today, is the long-term health of Xbox. That we're running a growing platform that is reaching more players, that our games are having as much success as possible. And I do have a fundamental belief that over the next 5 or 10 years, exclusive games that are exclusive to one piece of hardware, are going to be a smaller and smaller part of the game industry. And that's not some great insight, because if you look at the last 10 years and what the biggest games are today, it's a natural place.
Ok, yo creo
Whether
que
it's
sí
one
tienen la
console
idea
and PC,
de
multiple
expandirse.
consoles, mobile console and PC,
Mm,
you see big games landing on multiple platforms. And we want to be a great platform for creators that are trying to realize that potential. But now back to the specifics of the question on these four specific titles.
sí, por favor.
We looked at games that are over a year old, so they've been on Xbox and PC for a while. A couple of the games are community-driven games, new games that kind of first iterations of a franchise that have reached their full potential, I'd say, on Xbox and PC. There's always growth. Franchises that we obviously want to continue to invest in. Part of having the ability to continue to invest is that the businesses behind those franchises continue. We think it's important that these service-based games that have communities behind them, that they can have confidence that they're going to exist in the future. So 2 of them, kind of community-driven games that will end up on other platforms and give us the ability to continue to invest in them. We think that's great for the business and great for the communities, more players to play with. I'd say 2 of the other games are smaller games that were never really meant to be built as kind of platform exclusives and all the fanfare that goes around that, but games that our teams really wanted to go build, that we love supporting creative endeavors across our studios, regardless of size. And as they've realized their full potential on Xbox and PC, we see an opportunity to utilize the other platforms as a place to just drive more business value out of those games, allowing us to invest in maybe future iterations of those, so sequels to those, or just other games like that in our portfolio. And when we don't damage Xbox and we can grow our business using what other platforms have and to help us with that, we're going to do that. And that's really the story behind these 4 games. And last thing I'll say, looking forward, I think there is an interesting story for us of introducing Xbox franchises to players on other platforms to get them more interested in Xbox. We think there's a good brand value for Xbox there. So 4 games, no promise beyond that. So if you're on those other platforms and you see these 4 games coming, please don't take it as some signal that everything's coming. It's not. And we're going to learn.
So when you are thinking about the future and this concept of live service games, games that can benefit from bigger audiences, new audiences, how does that apply to future titles and how you're applying that criteria there?
Yeah, there's really no fundamental change to how we think about exclusivity. We just came out of Developer Direct, which was an awesome show, where we showed great games that are coming to Xbox and PC and cloud, which really makes them accessible to hundreds of millions of people. So it's this kind of, we're really focused on a couple platforms and what's going to show up there. But our key of play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want, when everybody plays, we all win. These have been part of our strategy for years and will continue to be. Our focus is on how do we continue to grow the games industry by reaching more players in more places, and how do we grow Xbox as part of that. Xbox is a hardware platform, Xbox is a publisher of great games, and Xbox as a platform for the world's best creators.
And then knowing that, how do we think about our first-party games and Game Pass?
Yeah, well, to build on what Phil just said, one thing I would add was you were talking about growth.
Perdón, muchachos, que quería pausar este raco, no se pausó, mano. No se pausa. Bueno, muchachos, antes de que continuemos con el video, a mí me parece importante irles comentando mis opiniones sobre este tema. A mí me llamó mucho la atención que uno de mis suscriptores me comentó eso y yo dije, ¿cómo así? Yo sí había escuchado parte de que Xbox iba, o sea, supuestos rumores que se iba ya solo para la parte de creadora de juegos, de títulos y que los iba a repartir por todas las plataformas, aquí como está hablando nuestro amigo Phil Spencer. Entonces, desde ese momento yo dije, bueno, pero ¿qué pasará? Hasta que en unos días atrás me enteré por un youtuber también que iban a dar una conferencia de Xbox. Y dije, bueno, esperemos a ver qué pasa. ¿Y qué es lo que nos dice directamente los directivos de Xbox? Y pues miren, hasta el momento lo que han comentado y lo que yo he visto es que ellos están como buscando unas formas de negocios, la cual no solo recae en las consolas como tal, la parte del hardware, como hablan del Xbox y del mismo PC, porque directamente Microsoft pues son las dos cosas. Y creo que quieren abrirse un poco más para abrir un poco más el tema de la venta de sus títulos y de sus juegos y para que Xbox sea una marca más reconocida no solo directamente en Xbox, sino en otras plataformas. Es como más o menos lo veo yo. Digo más o menos porque pues obviamente hay que hacerle un análisis un poco más consciente y tener en cuenta como esa parte a donde quieren llegar con esa expansión supuestamente a otras plataformas. Entonces, pues en principio lo entiendo yo y mi opinión es esta en cuanto a que si quieren expandirse, que de a 5 a 10 años ir mirando esa expansión. Vamos a ver si realmente van a confirmar que van a dejar de producir hardware y si directamente se van a dedicar a ello. Obviamente han dicho ya también muchas cosas que lo acaba de decir Phil Spencer, que es el tema de que sí, quieren expandirse por mediante los juegos, pero también tienen en cuenta de que no quieren como salirse de la marca Xbox. Entonces es como, no sé, es como que sí quieren irse, pero no así tan brusco. Entonces, vamos a continuar el video a ver qué tal. Y si algo quieren comentar o escribir, ya saben, comenten en el video, los estaré leyendo, muchachos. Bueno, continuemos ahora sí. Creo que van a seguir con la parte.
Xbox as a publisher of great games and Xbox as a platform for the world's best creators.
And then knowing that, how do we think about our first party games and Game Pass?
Yeah, well, to build on what Phil just said, one thing I would add, as you were talking about growth, is
Yeah.
just that we've sort of seen this inversion over the last 5 years where it used to be that the platform was the biggest thing.
That's right.
And the games would sort of tuck in within the platform. Today, big games like a Roblox or a Fortnite could actually be bigger than any one platform.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that really has changed the way that we think about things. So, in the midst of all that, I think we at First Party can come back to sort of some core principles.
Acá, perdón la interrupción, muchachos, pero voy a seguir haciendo eso porque no quiero llegar al final y que se me olvide la mayoría de cosas. Acá están hablando también que acabaron de hablar de Fortnite y eso, y si ustedes saben y juegan esos títulos, saben que esos son multiplataformas. Entonces se quieren dar a conocer como por medio de este. Yo entrando en opinión de lo que están diciendo, conozco el Minecraft, que es un buen juego. Es algo que solo no lo ves en Microsoft porque uno antes lo conocía como el juego del PC. Recién se creó ese juego. Entonces ya pasado modulado solo ya no en la plataforma de PC, sino también en las mismas consolas. En PlayStation, en Nintendo, y bueno, en el mismo Xbox, porque en esa época pues no estaba, no era como una implementación total para la consola. Vamos a continuar.
First, that all of our games will be on the Xbox platform. Second, all of our games will go into Game Pass on day one. And third, we know that Game Pass will only be available on Xbox. So there's
Ahí está como la confirmación que les estaba comentando anteriormente iniciando el video que también solo querían. Es que muchos youtubers habían comentado el tema de que generalmente los nuevos títulos que salían en Xbox, eh, los que tenían Game Pass podían aprovechar de los nuevos títulos porque salían día uno. Obviamente había unos otros títulos que eran terceros, ya no de Xbox, que pues obviamente si iban a salir ahí o no iban a salir ahí, eso se dependía también de los contratos, pongo yo. Pero acá ya están confirmando que igualmente no va a cambiar eso y que van a seguir con el plan de en el Game Pass sacar los juegos día uno. Que eso es como el punto clave que tiene ese servicio de videojuegos. Vamos a continuar.
Sort of starting points for us. As Phil mentioned, there are games today that you can play that only can be found on Xbox. And at the same time, we want to bring more of our games to more players. So we're going to continue to look at that. Kind of moving aside, though, from some of those and thinking more about what does it really mean for the player, to me, the two key things are cross-play and cross-save. Those things allow us to deliver on the promise of Xbox, which is play with your friends where they are, play on the devices you want, play the games you want. So that is really only possible at a practical level when you know that your saves and your player are going to be able to move across all those parts. So not all of our games today are necessarily built to take advantage of that. There still will be some games that don't. As we bring more teams into the Xbox family, there's some catch up to do as we get there. But that cross-play, cross-save is like so fundamental to what we're doing, and I think is something that we as first party get such a good benefit from being so close to the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things, like you said, all of our games are always in Game Pass. And so I'm excited to announce, with the coming together that we had with Activision Blizzard King, that Activision and Blizzard games are coming to Game Pass, starting with Diablo 4 on March 28th, which I'm super
Ok,
excited
en
to share
marzo.
today. And it's
Hijo
all
de
part of our
madre.
commitment to make the Xbox experience and the games that we build as widely available as possible. So now the 34 million Game Pass members can all enjoy the fantastic experience of Diablo 4.
Amazing. Can we come back to the point, Phil, you mentioned at the top, this isn't really a change in strategy for us. Can you recap for me how it isn't?
Yeah, and
Bueno, ahorita este señor está hablando, no Phil, sino el otro, el otro señor, estaba comentando que pues la idea también del Game Pass es tener como esa plataforma continua, perdón, ese servicio continuo en todas las plataformas. Que eso me parece una buena idea, digamos, en el tema de que tú estás jugando, por ejemplo, en el PC, yo estoy ahí, avancé en mi partida, llegué a tal parte o a tal punto, entonces guardé. Y eso me parece bueno que digamos, no sé, no pude prender el computador o no estoy en la casa y quiero jugarlo desde mi celular o desde mi consola portátil, alguna vaina que puedas tener esa conexión con Game Pass. Y si puedes activar tu mismo juego y realmente jugar directamente en la partida que habías quedado y habías guardado, entonces me parece súper genial. Creo que esto ya lo estaba manejando, sino que supongo que lo quieren ampliar un poco más en cuanto a las plataformas. Entonces ya veremos a ver qué pasa con esa cuestión, porque acá la señorita como, bueno, sí, interesante lo que van a meter, Diablo 4. Pero volvamos al tema, ¿no? Entonces vamos a ver qué es lo que dicen.
I thought both Matt and Sarah did a really nice job of talking about what we're doing on Xbox, where we're going. If you take a platform feature like Xbox Play Anywhere, which has been a promise that we've made on our first party games, that you can buy our game once, you're going to get to play across Xbox and Windows. I think we're the only platform that does this. That makes it
Sí.
possible for you not only to play with your
Yep.
friends wherever they are, but to know that you actually have multiple entitlements to the games. I think that's a technology I would love to see applied to more platforms. But it
Sí,
is
exacto.
this view that people are going to play Xbox in multiple places. Whether it's play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want,
Sí,
whether
exacto, es
it's
lo que acabo
content
de
community
decir. Pero
cloud,
entonces
whether it's
sí.
when everybody plays, we all win. Like we've had different taglines, different strategy, kind of words that we've used, but always with this view that Xbox is a platform for creators who want to reach the most players. Our investments in xCloud, our investments in franchises like Minecraft and now Call of
Sí.
Duty and other large franchises so that we learn how to build those. This has been a strategy that we've been on for, I'd say, a decade. It's not about one device. It's not about games in service of a device, but rather the devices that people want to play on should be in service of making the games as big and popular as they possibly could be. Because really, a healthy creator community on Xbox, a healthy creator community in gaming all up, is the thing that all of us as game players should be voting for, because that's the thing that will lead to the best long-term success and growth in this industry.
And my understanding, just from listening and learning from you three over the past few weeks, just understanding what's happening with Xbox, is that we see trends with player behavior where people are playing on multiple devices. That is the reality. And we have put some games.
Bueno, muchachos, acá pauso nuevamente porque estoy llegando a pensar que Xbox en teoría inició como una competencia más de las plataformas más queridas en esa época cuando inició Xbox, que sería en ese entonces o anteriormente a Xbox, que sería Sega, Nintendo y PlayStation. Obviamente habían otras más, pero no eran tan relevantes como la historia que tiene cada una de las que acabo de decir. Entonces, no sé, y me tiene pensando porque si se dan cuenta, PlayStation ya los títulos que tenía más insignia de esta misma empresa ya se pueden jugar en el PC. Entonces, es lo que pone a pensar directamente si quieren todos formar como una línea. Nintendo, pues no es la única empresa que está manejando todo ahorita reservado a derechos de ellos mismos. Que yo tenga en cuenta y en aclaración, de pronto se me pasará algún juego evidente que pues ya haya sido multiplataforma creado por Nintendo, pero creo que este cambio puede que tenga una forma diferente de ver las cosas, porque ahorita acordándome también de la plataforma perdón, plataforma no, de la empresa Google, que ellos habían sacado una consola Google Stadia, creo que es, y no tuvo tan buen impulso porque es que era una empresa que no, digamos, que no era tan reconocida para los videojuegos, empezando por ahí. Obviamente sí puede firmar con varias franquicias, las cuales les puedes dar buenos títulos, pero, pero no sé, yo creo que el fracaso de esta empresa, porque esa empresa, esa consola en sí no tuvo mucho auge, yo creo que se fue como los primeros días. Fue el problema del tema de jugar en la nube, que yo creo que ese problema existe en varias partes. Ahorita, digamos, en la parte de Latinoamérica, ese tema de la nube es muy complejo, ya que los servicios que se manejan por estos lados no es tan estable como como en otros lugares. Entonces, el tema de la evolución del Internet, pues, se necesita tener como un estándar para todo el mundo. Por eso es que no se vio directamente implicado en una buena idea. Esa es como mi idea de lo que pasó con Google Stadia. Pero se está pareciendo a los servicios de Microsoft. La diferencia es que Microsoft ya tiene una experiencia muy grande en videojuegos. Obviamente comparándola entre ella y entre Google. Entonces habrá que ver cómo manejan estas cosas. Y realmente cómo manejan la idea de que todo sea multiplataforma.
Out on multiple platforms before. So
Hasta, perdonen, hasta volviendo a la idea que hablan en el inicio, que ya la idea de los juegos solo para una consola, exclusivos, mejor dicho, ya está como dándose a perder. Pero es que también es cierto que solo Xbox no puede pensar en eso, pero como les decía antes, si PlayStation ya lo está haciendo, entonces eso están viendo como la idea de cómo, la idea, perdón, que tiene Phil Spencer para ese tema. Bueno, no solo Phil Spencer, sino un equipo que tiene de trabajo en Xbox. Entonces, pues habrá que ver cómo funciona todo esto.
my understanding is that that's been good for players. How does that come back to the business with all of that in mind?
Todo es un
Yeah, as
negocio.
you said, we have shipped games on other platforms. In fact, realistically, if you look with the addition of Activision and Blizzard and ZeniMax, we're one of the largest game publishers on PlayStation. We're one of the largest publishers on the Nintendo Switch, especially when
Sí,
you put
este.
Minecraft into the equation as well. And now we're one of the largest publishers on mobile platforms as well. And that's not something that we want to back away from. We want to continue to be building great games that millions and millions of people can love, and that they can play those games where they want to go play.
Sí.
But we do understand the business success that Xbox has to have. Us as leaders in this business, the system today, the system that all companies that we play video games from, is a world of you got to be growing your business. Growth in our Xbox business is critical to the long-term health of Xbox. Many people know I've been on Xbox for over 20 years, and I want to make sure Xbox is in the best position for the next 20 years. That means healthy player community, healthy creator community, and healthy business. So when we look at opportunities to allow more people to play, more people engage, more people to buy, more people to subscribe, it's all about putting Xbox in the best position. And our hardware is a critical component of that. The absolute best experience somebody has on Xbox is hardware that your team builds and that
Ok,
people play
bueno,
on. But
bueno.
that's not going to be everybody. We fully accepted that we're going to have Xbox players across all kinds of devices.
So I think a lot of people think about 2023 as this incredible year for gaming. And in a lot of ways it was. There was some really amazing releases that I think we all enjoyed. But what were the signals behind the scenes that maybe indicated how we wanted to look at the future of Xbox and how we kind of keep up with the industry?
Yeah.
Bueno, esa parte me pareció muy interesante de la que estaba hablando Phil Spencer, que sería que el hardware es como una primera entrada a Xbox, o sea, que directamente las personas que conocen más la marca Xbox como tal es por su hardware. Obviamente, eso está claro y creo que muchos ya lo entendemos eso y esperemos que eso no cambie en ese tema, que realmente sí se expanda el tema de los juegos multiplataforma, entonces ya estaría entrando como una función de, bueno, yo digamos, no sé, hagamos un ejemplo, un Final Fantasy que pueda salir en todas las en plataformas y que no tenga como una exclusividad solo para Sony, que generalmente ahorita está teniendo esa exclusividad para los Final Fantasy. Bueno, para algunos, porque para otros ya la tienen en la mayoría. Pero ya ahí sería cuestión de que cada usuario empiece a manejar mejor las cosas en cuanto a, oye, si ya todos están en la misma consola, pues yo me compro esta porque me gusta más. O porque, digamos, no sé, de pequeño empecé a jugar más en PlayStation o desde pequeño conocí mejor la Xbox. Y así me parece una buena idea que tenga como una integración en ese sentido. Porque es que la idea de la competencia es buena mediante que se creen buenas cosas. Y ahí sería ya solo competencia para crear juegos. Porque es que, pero es que es extraño porque es que también yo he escuchado hablar mucho de que si dejan de hacer el hardware directamente de Xbox, pues es que igual la Series X y la Series normal salieron hace como 3 años nomás. Y la verdad siento que la están olvidando mucho porque no siento que tenga como ese potencial. No lo que dicen, sino experimentarlo en juegos. Que realmente casi no han salido juegos que uno diga que exprimen a esa consola. Y siento que ya están como tratándola como algo que ya pasó. Entonces es raro porque igual directamente no sé si lo sepan muchachos, pero las empresas no ganan, o sea, no tienen una buena actividad económica mediante el hardware, sino el software, es por lo que más ganan. Y es por lo que todo el mundo ya conoce a Xbox. Ellos ganan es por sus servicios. Y la mayoría de empresas es así. Nintendo era una de las que tenía, no tenía tantos servicios, es que antes no se pagaba tanto por un juego, que no, que salió esta adaptación de este juego, que falta una parte del juego, pues lo sacan como, ay, es que se me olvida el nombre, lo sacan como, se me fue, bueno, la idea es que cuando sacan un juego nuevo, realmente no sale completo a veces y salen unos DLCs, ya, casi que no. Esos DLCs son el complemento del juego y antes no existía eso, antes era directamente el juego completo tú realmente rescatando el juego era que sacabas cosas extras del juego. Pues habrá que ver entonces cómo van a manejar ese tema, porque eso también es cierto. Si quieren irse por esa línea de que todos compartan los mismos juegos, también tienen que crear buenas cosas. O sea, no es algo también tan al azar, tan fácil como puede pintarse.
Yeah, such a good question. And I think it's, as people who care about the industry, which I assume is people who are watching this, it was an amazing year. Some great launches, some of the games that I think will stand the test of time and people will be talking about a decade from now. But it's an industry that didn't really grow. And what happens when an industry doesn't grow?
Sí, ese es el problema.
You end up with some job eliminations, which we had. We
Sí,
had even
porque
our
es
own
que
hard decisions to make about building a sustainable business for ourselves.
sí, es que, perdón, están cortando la entrevista, creo que va a hacer esto todo el tiempo, pero es que esa es la otra cosa que acaba de tocar el tema Phil Spencer, que realmente las empresas no ha tenido, pues supuestamente, según lo que dice Phil, que parte del no crecimiento es que han tenido que despedir a tantas personas. Y eso sí he escuchado muchísimo por varios youtubers a los cuales sigo que que brindan mejor el servicio de noticiero gamer, por decirlo así, sobre despidos masivos en las empresas creadoras de videojuegos. Entonces uno queda como, uy. Y ahí, ¿qué es lo que está pasando? Uno mira y piensa es como, bueno, una idea de lo que puede decir Phil es que el crecimiento de la empresa como tal, de los juegos, creadora de videojuegos, no creció, entonces por eso tiene como ese resultado. Pero pues es una idea que da Phil, ¿no?
But in no way were we alone in that. When you think about a healthy industry, I want players who believe that they will find the best games on the platforms that they love. I
Sí,
want people who
sí.
invest
Tú me
their
encanta lo que
careers
les
in
decía
working
antes. Me
here
encanta
to feel
Play.
like this is a place that they can be successful. And that really is down to being part of an industry that is growing. If you listen to Lisa Su, the AMD CEO, she'll say that AMD powered consoles are likely to decline in 2024. I think there's an amazing set of games coming in 2024, but if we don't get to growing as an industry, the industry will struggle. And today there's really two choices on how do you grow the industry. Do you say I have a fixed number of players, the players that we have today, and do I find
Sí.
new ways to monetize those players to get more money from the players that I have? Or do you think about how do I expand the business I have by finding new players and adding those to the base of players that already play? Our focus on Xbox for the last decade has really been on that latter point of how do we make sure Xbox is growing for our players, growing for our creators, so those people are finding success on our platform, which will grow the Xbox business and put Xbox in a position to be very strong for years and decades to come.
Matt, earlier you were talking about these
Okay.
growing gaming communities, how they're incredibly large and comparable on such a different level when we think about console audiences. Like you mentioned Roblox, you mentioned Fortnite. So how are we're obviously thinking about our responsibility, our hardware responsibility is supporting the growth of gaming communities. How has that actually shown up for the players? Are there other games we can speak to from our portfolio?
Well, as Phil mentioned, I mean, two of the biggest ones for us, Call of Duty and Minecraft, I mean, they are driven just from the bottom up by the communities of people that play those games, which is so great. I think about it for the player community, it comes down to where are the friends, where are the people you play with, and then equally important is where have you built up your library of games, right? Where have you invested? Where's that library? I think those two things probably are some of the biggest influences on where people choose to play and what devices they choose to play.
Yeah.
When we think about, on the other side, the developer side, just any game developer wants their game to find the biggest audience possible. That's just the nature of building a game. You want people to enjoy and participate in what you've made. And I think we're in a unique position to deliver on that just because we are the platform. We build hardware, we've got a first-party games group, and then we've got a system that ties that
Sí, eso es lo
together,
que se ha
that
estado
brings together your
manejando.
friends, your progression, your achievements, all of that. And I think that's really what has contributed to the momentum behind some of these communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at, just step back and you look at the history of the industry, we've move from a place where it used to be that someone built and launched a game to accelerate hardware to actually the things we do with our hardware and with our platform are all in service of making those games bigger. And we think about that across all of the investments we make, the consoles we build, the investments we do with things like crossplay, cross progression, the things that we're doing with cloud. How do we actually give more options to game creators so they can have the greatest success? I think one of the fun recent examples about this is actually Power World. You know, Power World was able to launch, they were a game preview, they launched in Game Pass, they also simultaneously launched in Steam. And through the combination of those things, you know, Pocket Pair was able to have this outsized success, and it was the largest third-party Game Pass launch ever. And that's all because we give creators options on how they can launch their games. We've got subscription, we've got retail, we've got free-to-play, we've got game preview. We have the consoles, we have our experience on PC, and they can access all of those things. And when we step back and we just look at the performance of our platform all up, we know it's working. We're at the highest level of users on console, the highest level of users on PC, the highest level of users on cloud ever. We have double-digit growth rate on PC and cloud, places where we're enabling creators to actually reach new players beyond the console ecosystem. And that's why we're leaning into it and doing more, because we see all those signals.
So we're talking about the role that hardware plays for creators, for the games and those communities. What about the role that hardware plays for us as a business, for Xbox?
When we look at our hardware, it really is, and Phil said this earlier, it's where you get like the most flagship seminal experience of Xbox. And it also represents a developer target. Our developers can build the specs of our hardware, and we invest to make sure they know when they do that, that the games are going to run great on our hardware, but they're also going to be able to be accessed across any screen because of all the other investments we make. So we're giving them an easy way to access as many players as possible. And we actually have more creators right now building for Xbox than ever before by nature, thousands of them by nature of those investments. And we got more to come. There's some exciting stuff coming out in hardware that we're going to share this holiday. And we're also invested in the next generation roadmap. And what we're really focused on there is delivering the largest technical leap you will have ever seen in a hardware generation, which makes it better for players and better for creators and the visions that they're building.
And then when we're talking about hardware too, there's these other considerations that are really important to our community, probably to each one of ourselves as well. When you talk about library, because I want to dig in on that a little bit more. You know, as we talk about cloud in the wider entertainment industry, there's conversations about streaming. How is that impacting how I own my content that I...
Ok, creo que esa parte que acabamos de ver, pues argumenta y fundamenta lo que hemos estado diciendo anteriormente en el video. Y yo siento que en parte ellos quieren es experimentar, no sé si realmente, siento que le dan muchas vueltas al tema del hardware, empiezan a hablar, sí, el hardware es importante y tratamos de que cada vez que creamos un hardware sea una evolución más del anterior, que es lo que se vive directamente desde tiempos inmemorables de la empresa de los videojuegos que estaban hablando ahorita estos tres señores. Porque pues la otra es una entrevistadora que, bueno, ¿y esto qué o qué o cómo? Entonces, pues sí, siento que directamente sí. No sé si vayan a acabar con eso, pero no es como que dijeran, no lo vamos a seguir construyendo y vamos a seguir con el hardware. Obviamente se van a enfocar más en lo que hemos estado viendo, que es el tema de directamente los juegos multiplataforma, que la mayoría de los juegos de Xbox se den a conocer en otras plataformas. Y en parte me parece buena idea, lo que les hablaba ahorita de Minecraft, que directamente ya lo vemos en todas las plataformas y es algo creado por Microsoft. Bueno, la creación directamente no afirmo de que sea de Microsoft, pero es lo que uno tiende a conocer cuando es un jugador de videojuegos. El caso es que creo que tienen como esa idea de expandirse. No sé si realmente directamente más adelante nos vayan a decir, no, vamos a sacar tal cosa y tal otra. Hoy hablaron de 4 nuevos juegos, de lo poco que hemos visto, entonces vamos a complementar. Mejor dicho, vamos a terminar la entrevista a ver qué el podcast que hicieron.
I've invested in. So what can we say about our stance around game preservation?
Yeah, one of the highlights for me of being in this position was getting to stand on stage when we announced back compat coming to Xbox One. Like, it was fantastic. People were reading the teleprompter before I could read it. I'm a slow reader, and just feeling the energy in the auditorium as we were saying that and online. One of the cues I think us as being part of Microsoft take is looking at Windows and how Windows over decades has maintained software compatibility with things that are built on it. Like, I can still go back and play some of the games that I love playing on Windows from decades ago, and it will still run. And we try to bring that same view to consoles. It's harder in console because the line between what the hardware is and what the game is in consoles is traditionally, it's tighter, which makes compatibility, you end up doing these generational compatibilities that we've built. But I will say compatibility, the ability to not only play the games, but my saves are still there with our cloud save systems to try to keep the services up as long as we can so that people can play, is a tenet of what we are as Xbox. It's at our foundation. And when we look at future hardware generations and what we're gonna support, making sure that we respect, which is the word I use, respect the investments that people have made in Xbox going forward is fundamental. And the fact that you get entitlements when you buy a game from us on both Windows and Xbox also means you have the ability to play that game across a multitude of devices, which I think furthers the compatibility of the games
Sí,
that you own.
no sé, sigo
Can we go back
creyendo que
to
siguen
what
con esa
Xbox
idea de
stands
los,
for
la
today? I think
actuación de
we've
los
pretty
juegos,
much
pero
covered all of the elements, but if you could break it down for me.
You know, when you play on Xbox, what we're saying is you're playing on a platform where you know the biggest games in the world are always going to be. You're playing on a platform where you get to access Game Pass. And all of the games from our incredible range of studios will always launch in Game Pass day one. And you're playing on a platform that's dedicated to you, like player-first features, cross-play, cross-save, cross-progression, backwards compatibility, being able to play your games in your library anywhere you want because of the investments that we make in cloud gaming. And so you're playing somewhere where you're investing and you know you get to take the games forward with you and across all of the screens where you are. And I think most importantly, Xbox is a place where you know when you're investing in Xbox, you're investing somewhere that is dedicated to making games more successful and creators more successful so that they can invest more to bring even better experiences to you all of the time.
Yeah, just that investment in the studios is so, and we feel that as part of first party with the platform proximity. You know, it's kind of amazing now to look out across all the studios we've got and just be reminded that we're now one of the biggest development organizations in the industry. What does that mean for players? It means that the biggest games are going to continue to come to Xbox. And this 2024, the year coming up, we've got more than 10 major releases coming up. Great stuff. Hellblade 2. We've got Diablo expansion. We've got Avowed, Ara, the Indiana Jones game. And there's more in development, which I think we're going to be able to share more about at our June showcase coming up pretty soon.
Well, I guess I should get ready
okay.
to work on that show.
Bien, bien, bien,
Well,
me
thank you all
parece.
for showing up on the podcast today, and we'll see the rest of you this June.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.
Entonces en junio nos veremos, muchachos. Pues no, bueno, haciendo una conclusión directa de la entrevista, porque ya me alargué bastante con el video. Espero que por lo menos lo puedan disfrutar. Pues nada, creo que están aclarando como el rumbo de la empresa en cuanto a sus negocios, en cuanto a crecimiento como tal de la industria del videojuego. Entonces no hablan directamente como en, oye, los rumores son falsos, no vamos a dejar de construir hardware. No, no afirman que no van a dejar de construir. Tampoco afirman que sí van a dejar de construir. Entonces estamos como directamente, siento yo, que Xbox quiere expandir más sus juegos, no limitarse tanto a su propia marca de Xbox. Es lo que yo veo. Directamente sí hablan al final que dijo este señor como, oye, sí. Pero igual los juegos importantes de Xbox van a salir es en Xbox. Entonces, pues habrá que ver qué conlleva toda esta decisión de nuestro amigo Phil Spencer. Y pues nada, muchachos, espero que hayan disfrutado de este pequeño podcast que nos hizo Xbox y aclarando sobre los temas que provienen a la marca de Xbox. Igualmente, pues más adelante seguiré también subiendo más videos sobre estos temas que sean importantes y relevantes de los videojuegos, así como vimos también el tráiler del Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Entonces esperemos a ver que también estoy emocionado a ver qué tal es. Si lo llego a conseguir, pues muchachos lo tendremos en el canal. Y también, pues claro que es que ese juego es bastante largo, habrá que ver. Si algo les hago un en vivo de cómo se ven las cosas y toda esa cuestión. Muchachos, ya no los jodo más. Suscríbanse, ya saben. Espero que se hayan divertido en este pequeño y corto video. Bueno, que se alargue un poco por mis conversaciones. Pero bueno, 20 minutos de video y 20 minutos del muchacho hablando. Perfecto. Cuídense, nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.